Okay, hello and welcome back to Jamie Wise's YouTube channel with information about the fashion industry and male modeling that you won't find anywhere else. Please remember, like and subscribe if you want to hear more stories. I'm going to go through everything chapter by chapter by chapter and make it really clear what happened in my career and how I got there and what I did. So yeah, the last video I finished off, I'd gone into this agency, they accepted me, and I signed on the dotted line, and I was like, yes, I'm a model. I left that agency. This agency was called M&P Models at the time. I'm not sure if it's still around, it was a very small agency. When I left that agency, I was in Leicester Square in London. I come from a very poor background, so as soon as I signed this contract, and I have this contract in my hand and I'm walking around London, I'm like, oh my God, I have made it. I'm a millionaire. Like, I'd made it already, you know. I really had no concept of what I was doing, you know. I had no concept of male modeling. All I'd ever seen are, you know, the David Gandy fragrance campaign on TV and supermodels. So I thought it was David Gandy and supermodels. I had no idea what the fashion industry was. And so I signed this contract, I'm a millionaire, and I go home and I'm very happy with myself. One of the first things I do is tell friends, and the response from friends was like, what? You're a model? Like, okay, you know, and I completely understood because, you know, I'd met a lot of people who had said they were models before. And as I say, I didn't judge them for it, but I just had no idea about the industry. And so my friends didn't have an idea about the industry, so it was completely understandable. But anyway, I signed my modeling contract and then it was a go. Basically, from this point forward, I was going to be shooting to 4 to 5 times per week. I was going to be testing with different photographers, different stylists. I was going all around London in all temperatures, from freezing cold snow to ridiculously hot weather. And I was going everywhere and shooting with all these new people and having all these new experiences, really having no idea what I was doing. And at the same time, I wasn't getting paid. So as maybe you remember in my previous video, I was working a lot. I was working almost 50, 60 hours a week between Fulham Football Club, and then I'd cycle 8 miles into the middle of London and I worked at Wicked, the musical. Basically, I'd sell merchandise and I'd sell programs and stuff like that. So I was so busy and I didn't have any money and I just graduated university. I'm in a ton of debt, you know, so I really had to really think if this was going to be something which was going to actually work out for me and get me to a position where I wasn't going to be poor anymore. And so I went to do all these test shoots. And every time I got pictures back, the more I was like, maybe I can do this. And these were all editorial shoots. And if you're not aware, in the fashion industry, there's several different areas of it. There's editorial, there's commercial, there's fashion, like runway and high fashion. So there's many different aspects of the modeling industry. And obviously I was gearing towards high fashion. So a lot of these shoots, you know, I was in clothing which, you know, I would never consider wearing myself personally. It was all artistic and creative. But during these test shoots, I started to find my flow. I started to enjoy it. I started to enjoy the camaraderie between me and the photographer and the stylist and the hair and makeup, etc., etc. And I started to think, this is something that I can do. But at the same time, I was making no money. I was making absolutely no money. So I was having to slot this in with everything else. Honestly, I still don't really know how I made it work, considering I had no money, you know. And so, yeah, it was a go. And I did test shoot after test shoot after test shoot after test shoot after test shoot, and still no work, you know. And I was going into my agency all the time and just listening to anything my manager said, listening to anything the owner said, and doing everything I was told, everything. At home, I was being super healthy. I was eating only very, very cleanly to make sure that I didn't get acne. I was making sure my hair always looked nice. Hey, actually, that reminds me. When I first signed my modeling contract, the first thing they did was to send me to a hairdresser to get my hair cut. My whole life, I'd had kind of long, goofy hair, and I didn't care, you know. And But as soon as I signed my contract, they sent me, and I pretty much had the same haircut since. Because that is one of the best things I found about modeling is I had a lot of people who really refined the way that I looked and made me realize how I look the best, you know, and having someone objective who is doing that for you is actually really beneficial. Well, it was beneficial for me at the time because I was a massive goof, as I say. And so, yeah, so I'd done all these test shoots, I'd got the haircut, I'd bought new clothes that I thought were nice, and still I was not making any money. And my agents at the time, and I would find that they would be like this throughout my career, were mega positive. And they were like, just keep going, you're gonna be fine, everything's gonna be good. Like, you're gonna make the money, etc., etc. Just do everything that you possibly can. This got me into, you know, several situations. I remember once going into my agency and arriving there, and there was 4 other guys there. And everyone is really quite desperate to make this a success. And some of these guys had flown in from out of town. Like, the agency would pay to have these guys come in, new faces, and then they'd send them out into London to all the big casting agents and to see whether they could be successful or not. And so I stood there with these 4 other guys. The competitive vibe was palpable, you know, like, it's very difficult to have conversations with other models that you're competing with because there's a certain amount of reservation always because you're the competition, you know, and I understand that because we're all trying to make it and we're all trying to find a better life for ourselves. And so I understand that. I never personally was like that, but I understood it from other models. Didn't mean I was friends with them, but I understood it. And so yeah, this particular shoot, which was maybe in my 3rd week of modeling, all I remember was my manager giving me these very, very skimpy underwear, like very skimpy underwear. And then we had to go into this white room where this photographer that I'd never really met was shooting us. And basically all the poses were just incredibly seductive, incredibly homoerotic. And yeah, you know, for me, as a heterosexual man, it was very interesting. I had I went to drama school, so I've always known a lot of gay people, and I lived with a gay couple, and I've always been very comfortable with gay people anyway. But in terms of me presenting myself in that way and presenting myself as sort of sexy for gay men, I'd never really done. But this is where my acting training, I think, took over and also my desperation because, you know, I was very comfortable and I did that shoot and I was in really good shape. I'd made sure that I was in really good shape and the shoot went really, really, really well. And yeah, and I was one of the featured boys, out of this set of 5 people that were shooting. And my manager was, you know, super excited and super happy. And the next thing I know, I book a job. I've got an e-commerce job. And so I go to a random place in London to a company I've never heard, to a warehouse. It's a completely empty warehouse. And there I am. And I shoot for 9 hours. I must have changed outfits almost 80 times. And it might sound like it's not a big deal to change outfits 80 times. Can you imagine getting dressed and undressed in tight, complicated, a lot of materials which are very stiff, etc., shoes which often are too small 80 times? It's, you know, it takes its toll. And on top of that, a lot of the time I was made to stand on set. No one was talking to me. So I was just incredibly bored. This is another time in my career where I was like, I don't know if this is something that I want to do. And I got paid maybe £90 for that shoot. And so I'd done this huge shoot. It was really boring. And I only got paid £90. And it was like a 9-hour day. You know, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to be worth it. If I only make £90 per shoot, then that's nothing. And if I only get 1 shoot every 3 weeks, then I'm in real big trouble. I don't know if this is something that I really want to pursue. But you know, I just kept on going. And one of the main things that I did was make sure that I was super friendly with my agency. And every time I went in there, I was super gracious to everyone, and I really tried to engage with everyone. oftentimes in fashion, you'll meet people that don't want to engage with you and they actually treat you quite coldly. But I made it a real point of mine to push through that coldness and to try and connect with my agency. And I followed that throughout my whole career. And so, yeah, and I was in my agency. I remember one of the most specific things, which was me saying, oh, I want to be an actor. Oh yeah, the reason why I'm modeling is because I feel like it'll get me closer to acting. And I'll never forget the owner of the agency saying to me, oh, well, it just sounds like you're trying to take the easy way out. And that has stuck with me for a very long time. Because yeah, I was trying to find the easy way out. But if you think about it, I'm trying to find the easy way out because I'm from a poor background, from the north of England, and my dreams, which were at the time to be on the West End in London, I was walking around the West End and everyone in the posters on the West End were like B-list celebrities who had been put through training. It didn't matter about my dedication. It didn't matter about how much I wanted it, how good I was. All it mattered was the name that went with me. And so all of these things swirling around just made me think, this is my way in. This is my way in. And that is part of the thing that motivated me through all these like difficult times in terms of, you know, shoots which made me slightly uncomfortable, you know, dealing with people that were really quite cold, etc. Just as a prime example, there was a casting director who was the main casting director for Prada at the time. And when you sign as a new face in London, I mean, at least 10 years ago, the first thing they do is send you to the biggest casting directors. Because if you're a new face and you're fresh, the high fashion clients, they want the freshest face that no one else has used for their particular brand. Not only because they're super unique, because they haven't been seen yet within the fashion world, but also because they're cheap. They can get away with paying them significantly less than anyone that is established or has done anything that is established. So I remember turning up to this casting, and this casting director was a well-known rude man. And yeah, but thankfully on my first casting with him, he was very, very kind to me. And I remember that was the first time I ever had to do a catwalk. And so I did a catwalk. And I took pictures and I left, and obviously absolutely nothing came from it. In fact, I didn't end up doing a fashion week until another 6-7 months in my career. I missed almost 2 fashion weeks from when I started to when I ended. So yeah, you know, the first 3-4 weeks were just madness of castings and shoots and trying to maintain my finances and trying to understand the fashion world and these new people that I was meeting and these new personalities who valued things quite differently to me. And it was very intimidating, but as I say, because I felt like I had no other choice, it really drove me through. And so I kept on doing that, and I kept on doing these test shoots. I still hadn't booked anything except for that e-commerce job. But then I got a call from my agent, and he was so excited, and he was on the phone, and he was like, Jamie, there's an agency in Milan, and they want to sign you. It's Elite Milan. And I'm like, who the hell are they? And like, what are they? I don't want to go to Milan. I'm an actor. Like, I need to stay in London. Like, I'm doing this for money. I'm not doing this for anything else. Like, and my agent was like, Jamie, they don't sign anyone to this agency without 10 campaigns under their belt, and they want to take you. And so in my head, I was like, 10 campaigns, $10 million, you know? And so I was like, okay, I'll go. And so I decided to go. And within 3 days, from a life of living in England and never really traveling much outside of England, in 3 days, I was on a plane to Milan. And I'll tell you the rest in the next story. Thank you very much for listening. Like and subscribe. I can guarantee you I have a wealth of information which I want to impart, and I'm sure you're all going to be very interested. Thank you very much. I'm Jamie Wise.